Some places don't become dangerous by accident. They absorb what happened there. Water that remembers screams, land that hides bodies, places people still visit where something went terribly wrong and was never fixed. This video explores locations where people vanished, where death became routine, and where the past refuses to stay buried. It begins with a lake. Beautiful, popular, deadly. This is Lake Lanier, Georgia, the deadliest lake in America. People don't come to Lake Lanier to think about death. They come to swim, boat, and relax. But beneath the surface of this lake lies something far darker. Lake Lanier, located in northern Georgia, is considered one of the deadliest lakes in the United States. Since its creation in the 1950s, more than 700 people are believed to have drowned here. Official numbers vary, but the deaths continue almost every year. What makes this lake different is what's underneath. Before it was flooded in 1956, this area was home to the town of Oscarville, a predominantly black community that was violently driven out in the early 1900s after a racially charged murder case. Homes, roads, bridges, and even cemeteries were never fully removed. Instead, they were submerged. Divers have reported disturbing encounters below the surface: intact buildings, rusted vehicles, and tree trunks that can entangle swimmers without warning. Some claim they felt hands pulling at them. Others report sudden equipment failures or extreme disorientation. Many of the victims were experienced swimmers and boaters. In 1994, a local fishing tournament ended in tragedy when multiple boats collided in the fog, killing several participants. Locals say the lake creates fog unnaturally fast, as if hiding something. There are also stories of a mysterious woman in a blue dress, reportedly seen walking along the shoreline or floating in the water at night. Some believe she's the spirit of a woman killed in a car accident before the lake was formed. Whether the deaths are caused by hidden structures, strong currents, or something else entirely, one thing is certain: Lake Lanier does not forget. And it keeps adding names to its list. 3 women vanished from the same house, and no one has ever explained how. On the night of June 6, 1992, 19-year-old Stacy McCall and 18-year-old Susie Streeter returned to Susie's home in Springfield, Missouri after a graduation party. Waiting for them was Susie's mother, 47-year-old Cheryl Levitt. By morning, all 3 were gone. Nothing inside the house appeared disturbed. Their purses, money, makeup, cigarettes, and cars were left behind. The front door showed no signs of forced entry. The only strange detail was a broken porch light globe, carefully swept into a pile. Whoever entered the house was either invited in or had complete control. Phone calls began coming to the house later that day. Several callers reported hearing a male voice making obscene comments, then hanging up. Police were never able to trace the calls. Despite massive searches, tips, and decades of investigation, no confirmed suspects were ever charged. A local parking garage was once excavated based on a tip claiming the bodies were buried beneath it. Nothing was found. To this day, there are no confirmed sightings, no physical evidence, and no clear motive. 3 women disappeared without a struggle, without witnesses, and without a trace. The Springfield Three case remains one of the most chilling, unsolved disappearances in American history.
Some houses are old, some houses are historic, and some houses were never meant to be lived in. The Whaley House in San Diego, California, was built in 1857 by Thomas Whaley on land that already carried a dark past. Years earlier, the same site had been used for public executions. Witnesses reported hearing screams and seeing bodies hang there long before the house was constructed. Soon after the Whaley family moved in, strange things began to happen. Heavy footsteps echoed through the halls at night, even when no one was awake. Doors slammed on their own, furniture moved, cold spots appeared in locked rooms. The most disturbing presence was believed to be Thomas Whaley's young daughter, Violet. After her tragic suicide inside the house, family members reported seeing a woman in long dresses drifting through the rooms. Others claimed to hear quiet sobbing late at night. Visitors and staff have reported seeing apparitions, hearing voices, and feeling sudden pressure on their chests. Children have refused to enter certain rooms. Dogs bark at empty corners. Security cameras capture shadows moving with no visible source. The Whaley House is officially listed by the U.S. government as one of the most haunted houses in America. It has been investigated countless times, yet no explanation has ever been accepted.
History teaches us that technology evolves gradually, moving forward through centuries of experimentation, mistakes, and slow improvement. But every so often, an object appears that does not fit anywhere on that timeline. In 1901, divers exploring a shipwreck near the Greek island of Antikythera recovered a strange, heavily corroded object from the sea, something so unremarkable in appearance that it was nearly ignored and discarded among the debris. Only later, when the object cracked apart, did its true nature reveal itself. An intricate system of bronze gears, precisely cut and carefully aligned, forming a mechanical complexity that seemed impossible for the ancient world. When scientists dated the mechanism to around 100 B.C.E., the discovery challenged everything historians believed about ancient technology, because no known civilization from that era was thought capable of designing or building such an advanced machine. Further study revealed that the device could predict solar eclipses, track the movement of the moon, calculate the cycles of the Olympic Games, and possibly even model the paths of planets, functions that would not appear again until medieval astronomical clocks over 1,000 years later. This was not a decorative artifact or a symbolic object, but a fully functional machine created by someone with a deep understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and mechanical engineering. As the fragments were scanned, reconstructed, and analyzed in detail, including replicas and exhibitions displayed in the United States, researchers realized something unsettling. This was not a prototype or an experiment. There were no signs of trial and error, suggesting the knowledge required to build it already existed and was later lost. The mechanism is real, the calculations work, but the minds behind it have vanished from history. People call it Helltown, but its real name is Boston, Ohio. And what happened here was not an accident. In the early 1970s, the U.S. government suddenly announced plans to turn this quiet town into a national park. Families were forced to sell their homes. Those who refused faced pressure, threats, and legal action. One by one, residents left. But instead of demolishing the houses, the government boarded them up. School buses were left to rot in the fields. Churches stood empty. Roads were blocked with earth mounds. Then the rumors began. Locals whispered about chemical spills. Others claimed the CDC released diseased animals nearby. Some believed a secret military experiment went wrong. No official explanation ever satisfied the public. What made things worse was the silence. No redevelopment, no cleanup, just abandonment. Today, Helltown remains frozen in time. Empty homes still stand behind warning signs. Graffiti covers the buildings, and the forest slowly swallows what's left. Hikers report strange sounds, sudden feelings of panic, and the sense of being watched. law enforcement still patrols the area, despite there being nothing there. A town erased, a reason never fully explained, and a place the government would rather you forget. At the top of a quiet hill outside Louisville stands a massive concrete building with broken windows and empty halls. It was never meant to be abandoned. It was built to hold the dying. Waverly Hills Sanatorium opened in 1910 to treat tuberculosis patients during one of the deadliest outbreaks in American history. At its peak, more than 400 patients were packed inside at once. There was no cure, only isolation, experimental treatments, and slow suffocation. By the 1920s, death became routine. Patients were dying so often that staff built a secret underground tunnel. Officially, it was called a service passage. Locals called it the death tunnel. Bodies were transported through it at night, so living patients wouldn't see how many never made it out. Estimates suggest over 6,000 people died inside Waverly Hills. After tuberculosis treatments improved, the hospital closed, but the building didn't rest. It reopened as a mental institution. Conditions quickly deteriorated. Reports of abuse, neglect, and illegal experiments surfaced. Patients were restrained, isolated, and forgotten. In 1981, the facility was shut down permanently. That's when the stories began. Visitors report doors slamming on their own. Children's laughter echoes through empty wards. A woman in a nurse's uniform is often seen on the 4th floor, then vanishes. One room, room 502, is infamous. Records claim a nurse hanged herself there. Another reportedly jumped from the window shortly after. Shadow figures have been captured security cameras moving through sealed corridors. Paranormal investigators document voices answering questions, sometimes calling out names that match real death records. Today, Waverly Hills is considered one of the most haunted places in America, not because people believe it is haunted, but because too many people died there to ever truly leave. In January 1921, the five-masted cargo ship Carroll A. ran aground near Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. When rescuers boarded the vessel, they found something deeply unsettling. The ship was completely intact, cargo was untouched, personal belongings were still inside, but the entire crew had vanished. The lifeboats were missing. The captain's logs stopped abruptly. Navigation equipment was destroyed as if smashed deliberately. No signs of a struggle were ever confirmed. No bodies were found. No distress signal was recorded. The disappearance happened in one of the most dangerous maritime regions in America, later nicknamed the Graveyard of the Atlantic. Theories ranged from piracy and mutiny to storms, sabotage, or even paranormal interference. Despite multiple investigations, the fate of the crew remains unknown. The Carroll A. became one of the most famous maritime mysteries in U.S. history, a ship that arrived, but whose people never did. In the summer of 1947, something fell from the sky near Roswell, New Mexico, and the story has never been put to rest. In early July, a local rancher discovered strange debris scattered across his land. Thin metallic fragments, rubber-like material, and pieces that were unusually light yet impossible to break. Unsure of what he had found, he reported it to authorities. Shortly after, the nearby Roswell Army Airfield issued a shocking press release. They had recovered a flying disc. Within hours, that statement was retracted. The military quickly changed its story, claiming the wreckage came from a weather balloon. Photographs were released, officers posed with ordinary debris, and the incident was declared a misunderstanding. Case closed, at least officially. But witnesses didn't disappear with the headlines. Over the decades, military personnel, nurses, and civilians came forward with a very different account. Some claimed the debris was not human-made. Others described small non-human bodies recovered from the crash site and transported to a military base. Several witnesses said they were threatened into silence. In the 1990s, the U.S. government offered another explanation. The crash was linked to Project Mogul, a classified Cold War surveillance program using high-altitude balloons to detect Soviet nuclear tests. Yet critics argue this still doesn't explain the extreme secrecy, conflicting reports, or first-hand testimonies. More than 75 years later, Roswell remains the most famous UFO incident in American history. The crash site still attracts investigators, believers, and skeptics alike. Was it experimental military technology, a Cold War cover-up, or something not from this world? Whatever fell near Roswell in 1947 didn't just crash into the desert, it crashed into history. In the early 2010s, Texas law enforcement uncovered something far darker than a typical criminal operation. Hidden inside abandoned houses and rural properties was a ritual cell devoted to Santa Muerte, the folk saint of death. Santa Muerte is not officially recognized by the Catholic Church, yet she is widely worshipped across parts of Mexico and the southern United States. While many followers see her as a protector, investigators discovered that this particular group used her image in violent and criminal rituals. Altars were found covered in skulls, candles, bloodstains, and offerings. Some locations contained animal remains. Others showed evidence of drug trafficking, extortion, and executions carried out as offerings for protection from arrest or death. What alarmed authorities most was how deeply belief was intertwined with violence. Members reportedly believed that refusing a ritual would bring death upon themselves or their families. Fear kept them loyal. Silence kept them hidden. Several arrests were made, but officials admitted something unsettling. The network was never fully mapped. Some members disappeared before they could be identified. Others were released due to lack of evidence. To this day, law enforcement agencies in Texas acknowledge that Santa Muerte ritual cells still exist, blending faith, fear, and organized crime. Not all worshippers are violent, but some groups crossed a line where belief became a justification for brutality. The most disturbing part is not what was discovered. It's how much may have never been found. It usually starts the same way. Someone wakes up in the middle of the night and sees a dark, human-shaped figure standing in the corner of the room. It has no face, no features, just a silhouette, darker than the darkness around it. Across the United States, thousands of people report encounters with what are known as shadow people. These figures are most often seen during sleep paralysis, moments of extreme fatigue or high emotional stress, but many witnesses insist they were fully awake. The shadow figures don't speak, they don't move normally. Some appear to watch, others rush toward the person and vanish instantly. A common detail in reports is an overwhelming feeling of dread, as if the presence is not just watching, but judging. Cases have been reported in California, Texas, Ohio, Florida, and New York. Some law enforcement officers, nurses, and military personnel have gone on record describing identical experiences despite never discussing them with each other beforehand. Scientists usually explain the phenomenon as a neurological event, the brain misfiring between dreaming and waking, but that explanation fails to account for one detail. Many people describe seeing the same type of figure with the same shape, behavior, and timing across different states, cultures, and decades. No physical evidence has ever been found. No explanation has ever been confirmed. And yet, the reports continue. Thank you for watching. Your comments truly matter to this channel. Share your thoughts, theories, or personal experiences below. Your story might become the next one on our list. If these real events unsettled you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us for what remains unexplained.